Let's take a look how we can get started with Metahumans with a new Metahuman creator app that we have as of Unreal Engine 5.6. This is the preview version that I'm using. This is in the 5.7 preview, so the project is still being worked on, but it's different to the previous generation of Metahumans in which we had a cloud spun instance of Unreal Engine like running in the cloud where we fiddle with things and then we download stuff that we then have to get via the Quixel bridge. So this is a new system that doesn't do that anymore because I suppose they want to get rid of the Quixel bridge. So I'll talk you through the whole process. Also thanks to Kiwi Hawk who brought me up to speed on that. So let's get started. The first thing that we need to do is actually happening in the launcher because we do need to install some additional content that does not come by default, at least not in the preview version of 5.6. So that's up here where you have these options. If you open that up and you scroll down, there's a package here that's called the Metahuman Creator Core Data. That's 5 gigabytes. So you need to tick that and let it download. And then the content like the skin textures and all that bits and pieces, they will be available. They aren't by default. And I suppose that's going to get changed, but if this isn't installed, then you won't have any skin textures. So that's number one. Check if that's installed. Second, we need to enable a couple of plugins here. In fact, quite a few of them. So under Edit Plugins, let's have a look for Metahuman. And then there's quite a few of them here. The SDK should already be enabled. The Metahuman Runtime is the deprecated plugin, so we're not going to use that. We also don't need the Live Link plugin, but we do need the Metahuman Creator, which is the beta version. We say, yeah, that's totally fine. We also need the Core Tech and the Metahuman Animator Calibration Processing and the Metahuman Animator. And no matter if we use it or not, those are the things that we need. Now let's go and restart our project. Save selected just in case. And I've just got the third-person template running here so that we have something to walk around with later. Comes up with another message that I didn't know about. Needed plugins, Lifelink, Control Rig, Apple AR, Face Kit support. Let's just go and enable all the missing plugins and that should take care of that. I don't think we need them right away, but there we go. No, we do. There is another restart required. So there we go. Another restart. Perfect. I'm sure it'll all be just a single tick box eventually when this is matured in a couple of years. So right now we can go into our project browser here. Maybe I'll go into characters here and I'm going to right click and I'm going to go and create myself a Metahuman. So this is the thing that used to run in the cloud. So I'm going to go and click on Metahuman character. So there's quite a few other things that you can make here, but we're going to just need the Metahuman character that creates you an instance. So I'm going to call this one maybe my MH. And then once it's saved, double click it to open the new creator. That happens in a new window. I'll go and drag that over here and dock it like I do with my other bits and pieces here. And now in this slightly weird mode that doesn't react to the normal WASD controls anymore, but with the right mouse button, you can go and zoom in, Alt, left click and drag to look at your Metahuman from all sides. And then weirdly, the middle mouse button will pan, but it'll pan opposite to what you're doing with the mouse. So I don't know which brain has come up with that, but it's bizarre and it freaks me out. Thankfully, there's an option to change that. If you head over under Edit Editor Preferences, over here under Level Editor Viewports, there is an option to invert the middle mouse pan. So if you go and do that, it will actually, when it's inverted, it'll actually react like it does in Blender. So this is basically what we want. So now I'm going to go and click middle mouse and push up, and then the viewport goes up. So like what sane people would expect. But hey, it's all beta. It might change at any moment. So anyway, so here we can go and create a Metahuman. So we have a head adjustment, we have body adjustments here, and you can see that the camera sort of switches automatically. Then we can also use materials here, and we have hair and clothing. So maybe let's start with the body first. So the cool thing about this is I think when Metahumans first came out, I looked at them briefly and thought this was a complete non-starter for me because we had exactly 6 body shapes and nothing that we could do with them. Thankfully, there is now a way to model this. So under model, you have all these sliders here, so you can create a body type and make it bigger, taller, turn it into a man or a woman. I suppose in the middle it's sort of androgynous like Genesis 9, and then if you turn it to the left, then it turns into a man, and to a sort of a tall man, and if you turn it to the right, then it becomes more womanly, and then there's anything in between. So that's the first slider here. But then you have things like muscularity, that you can increase or decrease, and you can have fatter bodies and less fat bodies. Sadly, right now, I don't think you can enter a number that is larger than what the slider allows you. So I can't type in 5 here or something. That doesn't work. It's 1.88. It's a weird number to top out at, but they're all a little bit weird. So you expect this to change. And then height, you can change independently. So like, short and stocky, you can make yourself a dwarf character that's a little bit female-ish, perhaps, something like that. So kind of nice how that reacts, and it's not a cloud instance. That's kind of cool. So again, upper torso, you can play with that. Obviously, you can make really ugly and weird characters as you do this. Bust size is an option. Bust span is an option. So we do have some sliders, but they also allow for weird shapes and weird combinations that don't look all that healthy, I have to say. Lower torso, hip rise. I don't know what hip rise. That's not gonna really rise the hip up. That's just going to make some weird changes there. But also notice how some of the other sliders change as a result. So they are more controllers than morphs. So maybe it's a combination. I don't really know how that works under the hood, but maybe this is a good metahuman. So you get the idea. You can go and play around with this and create your very individual metahuman. Arm length, maybe biceps. Let me put some biceps on my man, woman, androgynous thing here. Fatter elbows, good idea, and then fatter wrists. Also, yeah, interesting. So it's a good body shape. It certainly doesn't look like a metahuman anymore, which I think that's important. That's really important, because the 6 metahumans that we did have to play with, they just all look like metahumans to me. So anyway, legs, I'm going to leave the legs as they are. I'm going to show you something else. So the blend here, I think you know that already. If you switch over to blend, you can pick 3 different sort of things you've made and then blend between them. So they already had that. And then there's also conform, which means you can go and start from a template that isn't actually here. So maybe that's going to appear at some point, pretty much like what you see in the Quixel bridge right now, that you have all these pre-made personalities. Maybe those are the templates that eventually will show up. And import DNA, that's sort of the formula for your metahuman character. So you can go and import that from here on the DNA file there. But we don't want to do that. I just wanted to show you that. Let's go move over to the head then. And we have a few additional controls. So right now we've only just made the body, and the head stays exactly the same. So blend is the same thing for heads that we just saw for body shapes. And you can go and tweak this individually. I'll show you more about these points in a moment there. Then, so that's that. Then model is something that lets you take care of individual items of your little metahuman there. Take care of the teeth here, so you can go and open that. Jaw open. This is why Genesis 9 and Genesis 8.1 calls jaw open, not mouth open anymore, by the way. So if you zoom in here, you have all these little sliders which you can go and change the position of the upper teeth or the lower teeth here, and you can also go and make funny little looking teeth here, make them slightly longer, slightly shorter. There's not that much variety in there, but enough to make them look individual. There's one that gives you little crooked teeth here, so kind of nice what you can do there. Worn down, these are also available as sliders. So each of these little points works by switching this, so you can go and switch that around. I think except for count, you have some additional parameters here that you can play with. Maybe those are good teeth here. Maybe that's good teeth here. Eyelashes, you can give your guys some eyelashes. If you select these, there's nothing that happens. That's because these are groom assets, so you have to enable grooms down here. And when you do that, then they should go and pop into place in a minute. There we go. So you can go and zoom in and have a look at that. So different types of eyelashes. I guess we're going to get different types as well. I'm going to go and stick with these. Yeah, they're quite nice. So I don't know if we're going to get other buttons here, but that's the plan. That's the idea. So reset means you reset everything that you've done. Move here lets you make some rough sculpting changes to the head. So not like you can't turn this into elf ears, but you can certainly adjust the height of the ears. Mirror mode is on by default, which is probably what you want for most of these adjustments, but you can also disable it with symmetric modeling here, and then you can only go and adjust one side here. So this is not for expression editing or anything. This is just for broader strokes and broader sculpting, like mouth height and nose height and stuff like that. I'm going to put symmetric modeling back on here. Go make some changes here to the face, maybe a little bit, make it look like that, something like that. So broad strokes. There's another way that you can add changes to the face, and that happens with sculpt. So sculpt is basically the same principle, but with more points, with finer points. And same thing applies to symmetric modeling, and you can go and change things like more fine-tuned aspects of the face. Sort of cool to play around with, and also I appreciate how responsive this is. I remember Metahumans used to be extremely heavy going back in the day, and I'm glad they've made some improvements here. So again, there are some points on the ears, but it's not something that you can use to turn these into elf ears here. I'm thinking there might be a way to bring this mesh out into Blender or ZBrush and then make changes and bring it back as a morph target. If I can work that out with Metahumans, then I'll certainly let you know. I've made it possible with regular skeletal meshes, so they can import morph targets from Blender's shape keys. I might make another video on that in a little while. Maybe this is my favorite metahuman here now. Let's leave it like that. And if you're not happy, there's always the reset button that you can use. The next option here then is materials. If we click on that, we can go and give our guy some materials. We have different body sort of skin here: makeup, head model, and eye. So let's go pick skin first of all. And then we have this bizarre underwear on here that we can enable or disable. At least we can, the top part here, show top underwear, so you can enable and disable that. I don't know why you can't disable the bottom part, so you'd have to go into Substance Painter and sort of get rid of that manually if you didn't want to see that. Most likely maybe your character is going to wear clothing anyway. These at the bottom here, these are freckles, so those are obviously only applied on the head. Different types of freckles, and they're actually procedural noise, so that's quite cool. You can go and play with these things. Density is not just the opacity, it's actually the amount of stuff that's being generated there, so that's pretty cool. Then strength, that is something like opacity, isn't it? Yeah, that's opacity here basically. Saturation, how much color these spots have. I barely see a difference, but these are redder than these. Then there's tone shift. If we go and crank that up a little bit, tone shift goes and turns them from paler to darker. So very cool. And then skin tone, that's just a flat color. But again, very exciting stuff that we have this variety. If you're familiar with Character Creator, this option here, skin filter, that might look familiar because you have face wrinkles, face stubble, face freckles, and face moles. So that's sort of cool. Let's give them a few moles. And this are these guys here. They've now shown up there. It's kind of nice. Maybe give them medium moles. Are there more moles now? Yeah, maybe there's more moles. I don't know. Face freckles. Let's go put more freckles on. Maybe switch these freckles off, and then we get to see what these freckles are. Some more freckles. There's no high. There's either none, 3 dashes. Don't know what the difference is between none and 3 dashes. And there's medium. So maybe that's cool. Face stubble. Let's give him a high facial stubble. Yeah, so in Character Creator, that actually goes and... Is he looking at me? He's looking at me funny. Oh my god, he's looking at me funny. This is crazy. But I don't see any stubble. I don't know. In Character Creator, you actually see some hair coming up here. Wrinkles. I don't see any wrinkles. So this could be something that isn't quite implemented yet. So let's not worry about that. I'm going to give him this back because I think that's nice. I think his nose is a little bit crooked. It is sort of, he does look real, doesn't he? It's freaky, I tell you. Anyway, so that's the skin. Then we can also play with the eyes. We currently have two different types of eyes in regards to color, but there's also different types of irises that you can use. So these are the brown eyes, but these are then the blue eyes, I suppose. No? Doesn't work. Can't change it. Doesn't matter. Okay, fine. So these, I guess, are the iris shapes here. So that's kind of cool that you can get your 40 million different iris shapes. That's pretty cool. And I suppose primary color, that'll change that. Make it more light blue. It's 2 colors here, so you can go and pick the secondary color and make that blue and a bit green maybe. Make it azure or azure, as they say in America. It's all very cool. Limbal ring color. Most of these things I don't really know what they are. That's the outside here. Ooh, Matty Manx, MMX. He would love this. Global tint. Let's give it a global tint as well. Look at that. Those are quite exciting eyes, I have to say. Pupil dilation. Bring it on. My goodness. There's a lot more adjustments here that I have not seen before. Yeah, feather it out a little bit. Cornea size. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Cornea size. Oh, that's that. Look at that. Very cool. Limbus softness, the stuff they have. And the sclera. Oh yeah, that's the sclera. That's the thing that in DAZ Studio is always a bit annoying when you bring DAZ characters into other applications. You can turn that around. That's cool. So that's basically this texture here. Very nice. And last but not least, vascularity intensity. It sounds like the name of the pop band, doesn't it? Vascularity coverage. That's like lots of veins, I guess. Lots of veins. There we go. Sclera rotation. Oh, there we got that. Okay, perfect. So that's that. Then we also have makeup that I haven't quite explored yet, but I guess we can apply foundation. Very good. And then we can go make that intense or less intense. Look at that. They've got it all. I gotta say, this is pretty cool. Bit of eyeshadow here. Very nice. Primary color. Make it sort of match your outfit here. This is great, and it's integrated and for free. Very cool. Bit of blusher. Do we need blusher? Yeah, a bit of just blend it in like this. Perfect. And lipstick, perhaps. There's nothing or 3 times the exact same lips, this or that. Is that the same? No, it's the way it feathers out towards the end. Ah, or does it? It did a minute ago. I'm not entirely sure if I see a big difference here. We're okay. Maybe we don't need lipstick. Let's not have lipstick. Let's forget about lipstick. Let's go not have lipstick. And this is good. I've got to say, this is very creative. I think this is mainly for the material of the teeth. So teeth, often if they have this default material, it would be nice if we just make them a little off-white, so they don't have to be like this maybe, but just a little in the off-white direction, slightly darker. If you look closely in the mirror, nobody except for this one guy who works at the dentist has completely white teeth. I tell you, there was this one guy, and I'm not sure if he works at my dentist anymore, but he had these teeth. They were like, ding! It's like brightens up the room. It's very exciting. I did actually ask him, are they your teeth? And he goes, yes, they are. Yes, they are. A little bit darker gums here, perhaps. Slightly darker gums. And plaque color, plaque amount. We all share the same problem. I can't really make out the plaque. But hey, maybe that's fine. This is my metahuman now. This is great. Hair and clothing, I gotta be brutally honest with you, I don't really know much about, but let's try it out together, shall we? So there's a section called grooms here, but I don't really know how to put a groom hair on here. I'm not sure if that needs to go in the library first or not. I have no idea. Selection, I suppose maybe you can pick something here. There's several binding assets, but I haven't explored that yet. But I would imagine this is how you attach hair. But I can't tell you much about it because I don't really know. So the last thing we need to do is well, 3 things really. You can go to assembly. Eventually there's going to be a button that lets you export things out here. Assembly is a 2-part process, so it requires us to rig the character, and it also requires us to download the texture so that they don't reside in the plugin content but more in our actual project. And that happens here. So you got to do this first. Download textures. You got the choice between 2K, 4K and 8K textures. I'm going to stick with 2K because that's just, that's probably enough. So this is going to take a little moment until that's done. And then we need to go and give him a rig. So let's go and choose auto rig with blend shapes here. I suppose this takes a little bit longer. This is for people, I suppose they don't need to talk. They can walk around, but they don't have facial expressions. I guess this is what I gather. And this is with the facial expression. So let's do that and see what happens. This takes a little moment down here on the right-hand side where my face is. Oh, this is a cloud service, by the way, just in case you were wondering. This does not, I don't think, happen on your local system. So for this, your version of Unreal Engine sort of phones home and downloads stuff from the server. So there's still some cloud services being provided there by Epic, so it doesn't run completely locally, but most of it does. Okay, my man is now rigged. Let's go press play down here to see a bit of an idle animation on him. I mean, we probably do need to tweak the sort of arm-shoulder ratio here a little bit in a control rig, but yeah, for now it's a living, breathing human being. I have to say, this is kind of cool. You can also, you have different animations here under face animation and body animation, and you can go and pick some here. Body ROM anger A. Let's try anger A on the face. He's not happy. Look at that. Totally not happy. Very expressive. Anger B, maybe? The return of angry. It goes well with the teeth. Look at that with the eyes and everything. That's very, very exciting. Fear. I meet my creator. No way. That's crazy, man. Look at the expressions. That is pretty cool. Also, look at the wrinkles. That is pretty neat, isn't it? Forget about the right click to zoom in gradually. I mean, you can scroll the mouse wheel, but you can also go and and right click. I gotta say, this would have never been possible with the initial version of Unreal Engine's Metahuman creator. Very cool. Happy? So let's have him be happy. There we go. Very happy. Happy to be here. Happy to be live. If you want to make any changes to him, you have to remove the rig, and only then can you go back into these editing bits and pieces. You can't do it while he's rigged. I'm not sure why that is. A happy bee, that is even happier. It's very cool. Sad. We don't want you to be sad. Let's be surprised. Be surprised. Oh yeah, that's exciting, isn't it? My goodness, this is so cool. I love it. And then it's a surprise bee. Even more surprised than before. So you're going to have lots and lots of fun with this. I tell you that. This is very, very exciting stuff. So this was the facial animation. There's also the body animation. Let's have a look at maybe the angry body animation. They're just idle standing around, I think. But hey, one of those things. It's as new to me as it is to you. Specific animation, I suppose we can bring in an animation sequence. Can you jog forward? He's jogging with a gun. This is exciting. If this is a little bit too fast, turn down the play rate to sort of half the speed. Yeah, baby, good. I did a good job on the arms there. I think I might have to I just change that. Anyway, let's go back to template animation and see if we get this guy out and ready to rock. I remember there used to be this green button here, but because this is all beta stuff, if this doesn't show to assemble the full Metahuman, you may have to just go and click on library and then back on assembly, and then that button is going to show up. It's also going to give you this folder structure here and some options. So at the top here, you have an option to create a fully cinematic, high quality version of your character, UE optimized, I suppose that's like a game ready version, and DCC export. What I gather is that this is the highest quality to be used inside Unreal Engine, lower quality to be used inside Unreal Engine for games, I guess. This is for cinematics. And DCC export, I guess, is if you want to export this thing out to something like Blender or Maya and then do some further work on it for re-import into Unreal Engine, I would imagine. I'm going to keep Cine on here, and the root directory and the common directory, those are things that are folders inside your content browser. So I'm going to leave the defaults here because I don't have anything else, but like Kiwi Hawk suggests, if you do have your own imported characters from the bridge, you might want to change this because this is going to overwrite stuff that is already in your Metahuman project. So I have a new project, so I don't need to probably do that, but in case yours already has Metahumans, then be careful with that. I'm going to leave all the defaults, and there's also advanced options here, very interesting. I'm going to go and leave these on as well. Same with the body properties. I'm going to pick nothing here, just hit assemble. So this is now going to go and turn this DNA blueprint created project whatnot into an actual blueprint that I can potentially use and also turn into a playable character. Takes a few moments, of course. And then eventually it's finished and we can go and use our guy. So at this point, you can go and close this down. You can always go back to it to make changes. So you can open this at any time. But yeah, for now, we have a Metahumans folder in our content browser with a common folder that's going to contain some interesting files that are going to be important for every Metahuman. And you have a folder for the Metahuman we've just made. So mine's just called MyMH, inside of which we have a grooms folder, a face, and a body folder. And we also have a combined blueprint. So if you open that up and then dock it over here, we see what we usually see in the viewport. This is my man here with the heavy makeup and everything, and that is these are all the components that a Metahuman needs. So we have the root component, then we have the body component with the skeletal mesh and a baked body material here, which is kind of cool. Then underneath that we have a face, so that's a separate component here with a separate skeletal mesh and a lot of other materials here. That's kind of cool that the face has all these layers. It really reminds me of Character Creator. They do almost the same thing, and I suppose you can go and change this, whereas the body has a single material. Sort of cool. And then underneath the face you have all these groom components. Many of these are not attached, like fuzz and eyebrows and hair. We don't have that in my case because I didn't find it in my content, so I suppose that's still coming in 5.7. Mustache beard. So think of these as slots. You don't have to populate them, but once they're there, that's where that groom component goes. The only thing that we have is the eyelashes, and that is in fact a groom component here. Very, very exciting stuff. And that is our very own Metahuman. You probably know better what to do with it than I do. I can certainly tell you how to make this guy walk around in our third-person project in a moment by the magic of live retargeting. So live retargeting is actually super easy. Join me for that in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Kiwi Hawk for putting me on the right track with this. And it's an interesting thing to get started. So it's beta. It'll really come out at 5.7 from what I gather. But hey, it's here already in 5.6 preview. Enjoy it and have fun.